Hi, Dr. Kachmann. Welcome to our diabetes show. I have a guest with me today, Jairam Navalaman. Is that it?
Vanamala.
Vanamala. I'll get to pronounce it. He's from India originally, and we've had a show hour before this, spoke about rice, but you know, rice can raise the blood sugar level, so it's part of this story here today. And we enjoy having him. I was showing him this book, which I want you to pay some attention. What I'm really saying is diabetes, especially type 2 diabetes, you can get rid of it in about 6 weeks. I just like to tell you that right up front. So some of these books I held up for you, have a look at them. Don't accept diabetes. Don't accept the medications. Some of them even promote the disease. Get rid of it. It has 50 diseases attached to it, and it can be done. Watch our shows, read some of these books, and maybe 6 weeks from now you ain't got diabetes, and you can give up the medications, which have side effects, and they cost money too. Yes. You can get rid of diabetes 90% of the time in about 6 weeks or so. Diabetes is a foodable disease, type of food that you eat. Drugs help a little bit, especially if a type 1 diabetic, where your pancreas doesn't work at all and you need some insulin. But incidentally, type 1 diabetes, where the pancreas is dead, you think it will tell you it's an autoimmune disease, but that can be true. But also, it's more common in milk drinkers because the protein in milk casein attacks the pancreas. Number one. And also it can be a gluten disease. People have a problem with gluten. The protein can attack the pancreas, destroy it, and you have type diabetes. So if there's a history of gluten intolerance in your family, you can get a gluten test, for example, and read a book on milk by Joe Keon called Whitewash. Once you read that, you won't drink milk again. When a little baby cow was born, I don't know if you knew it or not, they injected that day with a growth hormone. So it grows 10 times to its normal size. Then they put it in a cage to increase milk production. And then they put on pesticides and herbicides, and then you give your kid the milk the cow produces. You just think of all the hormones and pesticides that child is absorbing. And that's the reason you're seeing some diabetics. There's so much hormonal problems that kids, the estrogen secretion starts a lot younger. They menstruate at a much younger age. Milk can do all that. Did you know that? I teach. And but this book by Joseph Kraft, published 2006, but I really like this book. You can buy it digitally for $2 or $3. I encourage you to read it. Everybody should read it because what he determined is, he was a pathologist, University of Illinois in Chicago, that if you do a serum insulin that pushes sugar into the cells test, you can find them elevated in even little children starting at age 2 or 3. And see that they're on the path to diabetes 20 years, 15 years before their time, and you can stop the disease and avoid all the side effects that it does. And it gets even worse than this. Insulin, made by originally Eli Lilly, originally, now a few other companies make it. Insulin, we thought, is a savior for diabetics. Well, the type 1, which have no insulin at all, it does help. It does help. But the trouble is what's happening today. The type 1 diabetic has got a pump here, and he's eating all he wants, and now he's taking 100 units of insulin instead of 10 or 20. And that much insulin has effects on his body. So they die at age 50 or 60, when they would have maybe died as kids if they had no insulin. So it has some advantage, but if they ate a proper diet, the type one diabetic can live to be age 20 or so, taking only 10 or 20 units of insulin. The insulin pushes the sugar into the cells, okay. You need it to save people's lives. But then the sugar's in the cell. And the sugar, if you don't use it up as energy, if you don't turn it into glycogen, which is
stored in the
about
liver.
100 grams in the liver and 400 in the muscles, okay?
Yeah.
So we can store some of that sugar. If you don't get all the sugar out of the cell, remember, insulin is stuffing it in there, it gets converted to fat. Insulin makes you fat.
Yes.
In that,
Yes.
even where they inject their sites, there's a little bump. And diabetics think, oh, it's their diabetes. It's their insulin which is making them much more fat. And every year it's a little more, and it's a little more, and it's a little more. If you're overweight, 90% chance you're diabetic. Get a fasting blood sugar or glucose tolerance test. If that's negative and you're overweight, get a serum insulin because you may be on the path to diabetes.
That's very important, that preventing very early on.
Yes.
Because the diabetes has 50 different diseases associated with it, chronic diseases, waiting until that we get into a trouble versus measuring insulin levels very early on, and then change the trajectory of the disease by bringing diet and lifestyle modifications.
You can stop the disease early. And if you do as a child, oh, that kid may live to be 100. Versus maybe 30 or 40, maybe have their legs amputated, the chest, have a heart attack, skin diseases. Most of dementia, Alzheimer's disease is from diabetes. It's a disease of insulin tolerance 80% of the time. You don't hear them talking much about that, but you can see that on my other YouTube shows. Yes, dementia is insulin resistance. Disease.
That's very, yes.
A lot of people don't know that. And did you know that?
Yeah, I know that because insulin resistance, and because glucose is very important to the brain, and insulin resistance will dysregulation of glucose can increase the risk for dementia.
You got it. The brain can't work without a glucose. And and there are insulin receptors on every brain cell.
Yes.
Every brain cell has them on there. So when you read about the amyloid and fibrillary tangles and these things, that may be an end product or byproduct of metabolism, not the cause.
Yes, it's not the root cause.
Yeah, not the root cause.
Yes.
I think that's a big term. The root cause could be lack of sugar metabolism, they have found now that you can go into ketone metabolism. Ketones are small energy molecules. The brain can work off of them too. So it's not just blood sugar. By proper eating, like fasting, then the insulin goes down, the sugar goes down, fat cells open up, go to the liver, turn to ketones. In your brain, your liver, your heart, they love ketones. Okay. Let me talk to you a little bit about metformin too. You read about metformin, a drug everybody is taking. There's a little bit elevated blood sugar. Metformin tells a cell it's hungry. It pulls sugar into the cell, so your blood sugar goes down, but it's still in your body. It's still, so it's working. But the sugar's still there, so it's really not working. So you got to be you got to learn about it a little more. But this is a great book that you could read digitally, Joseph Kraft's book, because it's hard to get a hard copy anymore. You might go to the library and get it, but I try to buy some more because I give them away to people. And the point I'm saying is, do not accept diabetes, especially type 2. 90% of diabetes is type 2 diabetes. And that's where you have insulin resistance. The sugar can't get in, and that's the reason you take these drugs. But these drugs themselves help cause the disease. So prevent it in the first place by eating maybe good fats, 60, 70%, 20% protein. You know, you hear about we need our protein, and the bodybuilders are eating all these supplements and protein. Well, I'm going to tell you something. Protein, which is broken down is amino acids, your body recycles 80% of your muscle breakdown occurs from a day's activity. 80% is recycled. It's not what you're eating. Only 20% is what you take in. So you're taking all these supplements and taking in extra stuff. The extra protein that you don't need, remember, you only 80% is recycled. Most of us can get 20% protein. I mean, no trouble at all. There's protein in plants, for Pete's sake. And you know what the extra protein is converted to?
Uric acid, urine.
Sugar.
Yeah.
And uric acid.
Yes.
Sugar.
Yes. I think amino acids can come back to make the sugar.
Yeah.
And that eventually can now turn to the fat again.
Yeah.
Yes.
And most kidney disease is related to heart disease, incidentally. So, what I have found, they are not testing the people for GFR, glomerular filtration rate. Get your GFR test. I hardly ever speak to anybody who knows what their figures. Mine's 80, okay? It's 100 when you're a kid, and it slowly goes down as we age. And if you get below 25, you got to think about dialysis, kidney transplants, and your life is not going to be that long. It's not going to be easy. You got to go to a dialysis center, or you get dialyzed at home. Get a GFR test, glomerular filtration rate. As it slowly goes down over the years, as long as you remain, say, above 60 or so, you're probably not going to need to be dialyzed in the near future. But a lot of people very quietly go down, don't know they're going down because they're not being tested. So these dialysis centers, how often do you see them on TV saying, get your GFR test? You don't see them at all. We're saying it, so get a GFR test. So that as your kidney disease is declining, you can do something about it. Start eating correctly, exercise a little more, get rid of your diabetes, and you won't decline further into kidney disease. So what am I saying? Prevention is the cure, okay?
Yes.
The hospital systems, the pharmacies, the government, they're not out there screaming at you to prevent disease, okay? They get political payoffs. And let me review a little bit. Let's look at, for example, the school lunch program. Go online, look at it yourself. What do they have for breakfast today? Cinnamon rolls. Yeah. It's a federal school lunch program. It started in 1970, but it's so affected by lobbyists that, for example, if you want to get money, at the neighborhood health clinic like we have in town here. I spoke to the lady in charge. She told me every person in there is a diabetic.
Man.
Yes, every person. Especially, and most of them are children. And who's attached, who's in the same building? The government milk program. Yes. They give money to the lunch program. And if you don't drink milk, don't recommend milk, they don't give you the money. This is true. Go to a neighborhood clinic. I've been there. They wanted instant me going in there and teaching you how to get rid of diabetes and don't drink the milk. That's where the money comes from.
So if that milk and the connection you elegantly made to the diabetic situation, particularly type 1 diabetes, where you are saying that casein protein can target that insulin producing cells in the pancreas. So when we look at that, but milk is very, very nourishing, and it's important food for a long time in human history. So how do you reconcile these two pieces? Is it because of modern way of producing the milk is the one that you are pointing to, or is it something the milk itself is a problem?
milk itself was a problem, but it was not a problem when we did not feed it hormones. Like the baby cow was born, we injected it with a hormone. That started and then the cow grew a great deal, and milk production increased 10 times. Then we put it in a cage to get the milk, and then we put pesticides and herbicides on it before and after, and all these hormones and things are in the milk that you give to your child. Incidentally, which you may not know, if you give, in a veterinarian, for example, if you give the milk of one species to another, they die every time. Not many people know that. We humans, a certain amount survive, okay? But still, even a person my age who has no diseases, but I do have lactose intolerance. I can't digest the lactose, the milk. I don't have the enzyme. It's through evolution, it's phased out, generally starting at age 4 or so. So Asians don't drink milk at all.
Which one
at all. Asians
yes.
don't drink milk because they don't have the enzymes. Blacks, only 25% have the enzyme, so they have a lot of intolerance to milk. Whites, we tolerate it a little bit better. But still, as we get a day older, I don't appear to have that enzyme, so I don't drink milk. I don't eat cheese, for example, because I get a severe stomach upset. I mean, serious. It's kind of interesting. So, again, read a book by Joe Key on whitewash to read more about milk. And I tell you, another good book to read about diabetes is by Eric Adams, mayor of New York City, this black gentleman. He developed diabetes when he was head of Brooklyn before he became mayor. He became blind.
Literally blind.
He became essentially blind, 70%, 80% vision gone. And he was overweight, so obviously was diabetic. But he gathered some information and worked his way to the Cleveland Clinic, and Dr. Esseltine there, and some other doctors that I personally know, and they taught him a vegetarian way of eating. It's a great book to read. If you do this, great chance you won't have diabetes. He doesn't say anything good about fats, which I think is not correct. There are good fats and there are bad fats. They're in my books and my YouTube shows. You can read that. But still, the majority of people who become vegetarian will get rid of the diabetes. Not all of them, because if you've eaten so many vegetables, there's sugar in vegetables. But you're going to be better. So I recommend what he recommends, a great book to read. And besides, I like him as an individual. I mean, not a single child has died of a gunshot in the school system in New York City. It's on his website. I noticed the other day they had a little slow learning in the schools, and the head of the school system is speaking about that on the news. And who's sitting next to him? Eric Adams. He's a mayor, I think, that cares. He gets things done. You can talk, you can promise this and that. Eric Adams gets things done. So I really do like the book, but I have this habit of take the best and leave the rest. 90% perfect. Anything I say ain't perfect either, okay? But I know somebody that I think he's going to come to town 6 or 8 months. I hope that comes true, because I'd sure like to meet him. You can go online now, and I've looked at different websites on the school lunches and what they're feeding our children is like they're trying to hurt them. Pull up Fort Wayne, Allen County, Chicago, pick different cities, look at the school lunch program designed by the government, it will harm or kill children. It will fill our hospitals. But look at New York City. Go to New York City. Great website, very extensive website, and look at the menu. You can look at the menu. You know, on Friday in New York City, Vegetarian Day. Yeah. On Monday, half a day is Vegetarian Day. So, is he going to change the whole city? I don't know. But it's interesting. I mean, it's a very thorough website. You know what I mean? So
can you help us understand when you said he had the diabetes?
Yeah.
And he was almost going blind.
Yes.
And now he comes back and he is healthy.
Yes.
So you are attributing that one to more plant-based diet. Am I understanding you correctly?
Yeah.
So what is that about the plant-based diet that can have that profound effect on the health?
Well, I think this is a good point. I mean, and it is that the metabolism of the body has changed. They're losing weight, for example, because the sugar level is going down. They need less insulin. The insulin is really the problem. You talk about all health issues, insulin is the problem. And the majority of food he's recommending is not high sugary food, okay? But it's still better to eat good fats and minimize that. And he doesn't talk much about lectins, for example, that can be in vegetables. But the vegetarian way of eating, so he's kind of facing half the problem. He needs to look that fats actually are good, the good fats, okay, versus the bad, so guacamole, for example, and olive oil, and these MCT oil, for example, coconut oil. These are good fats. But if you raise the insulin level by eating too many sugary products, the insulin is the one that punches the hole into the intima of the blood vessels. That starts the arteriosclerotic process. Insulin is really our enemy. Insulin is the main thing. If you can keep the insulin from rising up, you'll be healthy. That is the bottom line, actually, is insulin. So that's the reason you want to check the blood test on the insulin. So I highly recommend reading his book. To continue my book, Prevention is the Cure, we've had a failure of public health. Our latest health commissioner in Fort Wayne, Allen County here, it comes from the emergency room of a hospital system. They should have no connection to existing systems. They should be independent so they can say what they want to. I went even to public health state of Indiana years ago, brought them all kind of books about diabetes, and that person was appointed Surgeon General of the United States. And I thought my phone would ring, says, Rudy, go around the country, tell people to get rid of their diabetes and show them how. Phone never rang. Then I heard on TV, he admitted he was diabetic. I was, and remember I said, if you're overweight, get a HbA1c or serum insulin, but you can even be thin. So you are what your blood test is. 20% of people are thin, still have diabetes. And the beautiful thing is, is that it has been proven now you can have insulin resistance, which is causing your diabetes, 20 or 30 years. There's too much fat in your pancreas and in your liver, and you change the way you eat, the pancreas will wake up and secrete insulin again 20, 30 years later.
So if the insulin is the one that you are emphasizing as the very important.
Yes.
So diet can influence the insulin levels. Exercise also can influence insulin level.
It drops the sugar level.
Yes. Yeah. So I would like to hear a little more about whether it is diet or is it the exercise, which one people need to pay attention to.
Oh, diet is 80% of it. 80% of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's proper eating. Exercise is good. It puts you in a good mood.
Yeah.
But it has been scientifically proven. you can exercise, do all these things, and you just eat it back. But exercise is important. It pushes the proper mind. You eat less sugar because the hormones are secreted from exercise to make you feel good, and you won't go home and eat the donut right away. And remember, I said too, fasting is extremely helpful. Like I do, no disease. I just do it because my body's secreting growth hormone, and adrenaline from the stomach goes down, so my appetite stays like this. My blood sugar stays like that because the 5 different hormones keep it up. And around 11 or 12, I finish playing pickleball, and I go eat lunch. I almost don't feel like it because I added exercise on top of that. I mean, exercise has value, and especially when you speak about Ayurveda medicine and meditation and relaxation and say taking a walk around my pond and speaking to the birds, singing a song. All these things make you feel good and better, and you're less likely to eat. But fasting is very helpful. You want to get rid of your diabetes in 3 or 4 weeks, try fasting 16-8. Rudy's 16-8. You don't eat for 16 hours and you eat for 8. It almost doesn't matter what you eat.
So now you brought that diet plays an important role, exercise plays an important. Fasting can help control the insulin. Insulin is in the center, and then diet, exercise, and fasting can influence. Is there any other factor that influences the insulin other than those 3 that we talked about?
The main factors is if you're eating heated oils, for example, they can destroy you. So sugar, fibrous foods, very high if you eat a high fiber diet, you can, let's face it, we spoke about rice earlier. If you're not careful, you're eating a lot of rice, it can raise your blood sugar level. But again, have one of these monitors on you, Dexcom or Lifestyle or Lifestyle Liver, and that will keep track of your blood sugar even over a month's time. You can go like this and look in your app and what your blood sugar is. So we're all different. We have a different gut, what our, and some people have, there's a trillions of bacteria here, and you be different from me, you know what I mean?
Is it not good to monitor the insulin along with the glucose, or just an insulin would be early on for a healthy individual? Is it better to monitor insulin rather than glucose, because glucose may not change as much, but insulin is already changing?
You're absolutely right. Absolutely right, except the way I feel about it is that industry has not allowed that because they would make less money, is what I'm thinking. Remember I talked about the sugar. The sugar industry pays a lot of money. Our government pays the corn industry, the sugar industry, a lot of money to produce corn, and then fructose corn syrup, which goes to the liver. And affects us a great deal. So industry has us surrounded. Industry has us surrounded. So you individually must learn to read a little bit. So to summarize things, you got to gather information, okay? Look at our previous YouTube shows. You can go to YouTube, Rudy Kachmann, 700 TV shows about wellness. Yes. You can gather a lot of information and read these books, not just by me, but Dr. Adams' book, my book. Another one, I want to hold up quickly because we're going to run out of time, is Goodbye Pills and Needles by Tom Jelinek. Excellent book, easy to read. A layman could easily read this. Gary Taubes, The Case for Keto. You get into keto metabolism, you get to diabetes quickly. And that's what he wants you to do, get rid of it. So thanks for joining me on this show today. And
thanks for having me.
Both know you can get rid of diabetes, all these diseases, and go pick a ball and tap dance with me and live to be 100. Thanks a lot for watching the show. We'll see you next time in about 2 weeks. Namaste. We love you.
Namaste.